All right. So first, I just want to thank our sponsors for this event. My name is Arnold Smith. I'm the CEO of the New West Chamber of Commerce, and we're really looking at ways that we can be supporting this business community, and we get to offer these free virtual events because of our sponsors. So I'd like to acknowledge the City of New Westminster, the New Westminster Record, also the Port of Vancouver. The Chamber's group insurance plan, Canaccord Wealth, Waddington Wealth Management, and also Lauren Namke. And if you'd like to be a sponsor, let us know. There's still some space for that. We really appreciate that. I think that this is the topic we're talking about today is one that's really near and dear to my heart. And I think it's incredibly important. It's really what motivates me to do what I do, and that is to build a supportive community. And I think we're really fortunate to live in New Westminster, which is already a supportive community. So I think that's great. But I'd like to also acknowledge that we are on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and specifically the Kakite First Nation. And I'd like to thank everybody for being here. We've got a really great panel here, which I'd like to introduce in a sec. There is some significant events happening in our world, all over the world. And I'm going to address that in a moment. But first, I just want to introduce our panel. So I'll go first to Rich Patterson. So Rich, if you could just two things I want from you. One is your name, obviously, the business that you are in, but also how you're involved in the community. So any boards you sit on or any efforts that you're a part of. So I'll do that for both Rich, Liz and Quinn, and Jeremy. So go ahead, Rich.
Oh, thanks, Arnold. Nice to be here, everyone. And thank you for having me. My name is Rich Patterson. My company is called Patterson Brands. We are a small custom swag and merchandise maker here in New West, and haven't lived in the community too long. Coming up on 5 years, surprisingly, but it feels like less. And I really, really enjoy this community. I love this community, the passion here, the sensitivity. It is a great place to work and live. And yeah, I sit on a number of boards and Tourism New Westminster, BIA board, volunteer as much as I can. And I really believe in giving back to the community. So great to be here.
Thanks, Rich. And he's also going to be talking about his project, which he is part of Level Up My Brand. So we'll get to that in a little while. Jeremy, why don't you shoot, since you're unmuted and you can probably be faster than Liz and Quinn.
All right, my name is Jeremy Perry. I am in the process of launching a new venture called New Roots, which will be a welcoming service to help introduce people to the community when they move to New West. I also sit on the Pride board, and I am one of the moderators and coordinators of the New West Helping Hands group.
Thanks, Jeremy. And over to Liz and Quinn.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Liz, and Quinn and I've been in New West now for...
Well, I've been here for 30 years.
Well, Quinn was born in New West. I was not. But we've lived here since, and love to get involved and do what we can to help support our amazing city.
Liz is on the local PAC, and together we started the Support Local Facebook page.
Great. And Quinn, do you sit on any boards in the community?
Yeah, I sit on one. I'm on the chamber board, and I'm a member of the Rotary Club, and try to do a few things around the kids' sports coaching and that sort of stuff, as far as involvement goes.
Very good. And you were also involved with the New West Hospice Society for a while. Is that correct?
I was, yeah, for a couple of years there, and still try to help them with their events and whatnot if I can.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for being here. So it's really impossible to talk about building supportive communities without really acknowledging the pain that is being expressed around the world through the protests about the systemic unfair treatment and bias. You know, I personally approach life with, and we're all in this together attitude, and I don't really carry any malice towards any person in every situation, but I look for ways to include people. But I really have to acknowledge that, you know, as we discussed creating a supportive community, that our panel is not fully representative of the community that we hope to support. And this was not done by intention, but that very fact is, I think, exactly the kind of accidental discrimination that we must address as a society. And personally, as the CEO of the Chamber, I, for one, will strive to do better as I grow to become the community leader that I hope to be. But the reality is that I don't really understand discrimination based on race, because A, it doesn't happen to me, and B, I don't do it. And so that can mean for me that it seems like it's not really happening. And I think that when we look around the world at the people who are willing to come out in the middle of a crisis and a pandemic and risk their lives and the lives of their family to show the support for this, I think we have to acknowledge as a society that this is a problem that really needs to address. And I know that this community is passionate and supportive and inclusive. So I'm really looking forward to, in my role as CEO, to finding ways to make a difference for that. I want to start the conversation. I want to go into each of these persons' projects that they've done. But I just kind of want to start the conversation with kind of tapping into the collective resource of this group to say what are some actions that you can see that would actually make us a more supportive business community, a more inclusive business community. And I just kind of like to record that for myself. I see one opportunity is to really make sure that in my invitations, that as much as possible, I'm reaching out to all aspects of the community. And I know that from our membership, when I look at who are our members, we do really have a broad representation. And I think for the most part, the Chamber does a good job, but there's always improvement. And I think today is an example of that. So if there's some ideas out there, or if some people have some feelings they'd like to express about what's happening, I just want to give a few minutes to have that be a forum for that.
I'd love to say a couple of quick things, Arnold.
Thanks, Rich.
I agree with you, and I feel that, I mean, I think one of the best things we can do as a business community is to try to make it through these next 6 months and come out with a robust business community. So it's sort of meta, but meaning that's one of the best things we can do, is have a robust and rebounded small business community in New West, because that will beget a lot of very positive things, and it can stem a lot of more negative things from happening. So I think that's one thing we want to do. And one other thing I want to encourage people to do is, like, in this type of situation, I find myself falling into this. Is under duress not to make any rash decisions about your ability to help out in the community and to volunteer. So if you are volunteering, I know I've thought, like, you look at the news, you think, oh, why am I bothering? And I'm just a middle-aged white guy. Like, this is not really the right, do you need another voice like mine? But I think for now, let's just wait. Let's continue to serve on the different committees we serve on, because these organizations, I'd say, need us now more than ever. And then definitely reckoning, for sure. Definitely a reckoning. We do need to rethink about how we invite people to participate, and inclusivity and the democracy of that. But at this point, I know for myself, I'm not going to jump out of this call or anything. I'm gonna stay the course for now and be open in the future. Yeah.
Thanks, Rich. Oh, Akila, go ahead. Oh, we can't hear you. I don't think you're on mute. It might be a microphone issue. No. It's always a challenge when you have multiple aspects of technology to address. It's one of my greatest fears when we're, when I'm planning big events, is that the technology will fail me, and there'll be, no recourse. The internet will just decide. Anyway.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Akila, please go
Good.
ahead.
Took off the microphone. Anyway, I wanted to say, as a woman and as a minority, I have had little, if any, issues, because I've been in this country for 50 years now, so I am a Canadian, but I do see issues with other people. One of the biggest ones is that people who don't speak English fluently do not feel comfortable interacting with others. And for us to invite them in to the business world, into our community to feel more comfortable, the chamber I was with in Maple Ridge, we used to do at least one multicultural event every year, like West Indian, or just something to celebrate and let people know that, you know what, you are welcome in this community. We want to find out more about you. We want you to participate in the community, because they bring a totally different point of view and aspect. When I first came to Maple Ridge, I've been living here since New West. I've been living here since 2016. I was really surprised to find Little India on 6th Street. That little place there, they've got some great places. But walking downtown, you would never know that there is a community of East Indians in New West. They're not very visible. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents worth. It's let's if that's something we could possibly do, multicultural event that invites everybody down and say, hey, you're part of this community, and they will give back. Look at Surrey. Surrey has a very, very vibrant multicultural community.
Akila, I love that idea. Thank you.
So I'm going to say something as well as the other person of color. I just want to say that the way that we can be inclusive and diverse is to ensure that, and representing the job seekers, to make sure that we are hiring based on skill set and not based on anything else, just to be aware of our biases that we bring into the whole process. Also, just to say that I do know that City of New West has a couple of committees that do look into issues and challenges around creating a more welcoming and inclusive New West New West city. And so I sit on one of those committees as well. And so just there is that outreach happening out there as well. There are challenges in New West, don't kid yourself. There are challenges in New West as there are anywhere else, but they are addressing, they are looking at ways of addressing that issue. And one of the things that we just did recently with the committee is we just held a newcomer job seekers employment fair at the work we see locally. So that was, I think a chance for newcomers to learn, for employers to come in and speak to newcomers and learn from newcomers as well. So those kinds of opportunities are a really good, not just bridge building, but also a good way to kind of get the newcomers integrated into the society that we have.
Thanks, Nimi. I think that from that, I hear also that the Chamber has an opportunity to promote some of the initiatives that are actually already happening in the community and point that and really be a champion for that. So I definitely find ways to try and take that on. Jeremy, go ahead.
As more of a longer term strategy, I think that there's some real benefit towards finding ways that the business community can support more exchange programs. Like if our youth are going and living elsewhere and bringing back their experiences to New West, not only will it give them more appreciation for what other people bring to the conversation, but it's going to help our community be enhanced by these diverse experiences they've had to bring back. So I think that there's maybe a place for the business community to look longer and give our youth new experiences to help shift what the culture becomes and changes in our community.
I think that's a great idea. And I think there's also a lot of individuals who are here already to really to connect with. And I think that that's something that we can do. One of the things I know, when I built my app, I spent many years studying neuroscience, human behavior, and relationships. And one of the things that I learned was that, all of us have this innate drive for survival that really it really makes a lot of our actions happen on an unconscious basis. And a big part of that is the fear of the unknown. And it's a completely automatic response to anything we don't know. A lot of people might meet me and not like me, but once you get to know me, then you really don't like me. Hopefully not. But ultimately, you have a reaction to the unknown that is a resistance. And so I think one of the things that we can do as a community is to really know more about each other, to meet each other, to reach out and make those invitations and make those connections. And I think if we do that, then that fear of the unknown becomes known. You know, different cultures, different languages. I think that ultimately there's that internal reaction that you need to get over, and that's automatic. But you have to consciously remember and choose, and that's why it's difficult to do. So I just, you know, that's just something that is a reality for the human condition, and it really does take an effort to do that. And I love this community in the sense that it really does have that in its roots, and I'm excited about seeing that come more fruition from a chamber perspective. Akila, you anything else? Yeah.
One more thing, Arnold, and it's getting to know people through their stories. So many of us have fascinating stories, and when you listen to people's stories, you can see the similarity. It doesn't matter your color or sex or anything like that. We all are part of this human story, and we experience a lot of the same things, but it's how we handle it that's different. And I think that might be a venue to get to know people. It's once a month, we have a stories night. Whoever wants to do it or whoever wants to attend can. So it's a networking event, but you're having someone from a different community tell their story, you know, and it includes all of us. It could be somebody from here in Canada. How did you get to where you were going? Like, I've known you for a bit, and I've been studying psychology and neuroscience and all of that for a long time. It was great to hear that we share something in common, to hear you say that. So that is, you know, some people, what they've gone through to come to this country is amazing. It's heartbreaking. Others, it was a smooth transition, but when they got here, it wasn't that easy. But so it would be very interesting to hear other business owners' experience, how they got here, and what is it like now for them.
I think that is an investigation that is worth having for sure, and not only and highlighting that conversation. I think that's great. I don't want to cut this conversation short, but I also want to make sure that we're moving on to, is there anybody else that has some thoughts that they'd like to share? Excellent. I think that those are some really excellent ideas, and I look forward to finding ways to integrate them. So the idea behind this really is, you know, each of these people who are going to talk today about their projects just had an idea about making a difference for their community. And I wanted to kind of get a sense of them, you know, why they did it, and also how they did it. So the not just the why behind it. So first, maybe I can just go each step and so talk about what it is. And so we'll start with Rich, and to just talk about the Level Up My Brand contest, its kind of origins, and what was the intention behind it, and why you did it.
Sure. Well, I think like a lot of initiatives, it got started over beer. So my friends, Catherine and Matt Webb, they are designers, not web designers, surprisingly, that's their last name, W-E-B-B. And they do design, packaging design and advertising and marketing design. Anyways, we were out for beers and we were talking about, we're all relatively new to New West at the time. This is about 2.5, 3 years ago. And we were talking about like what a great community it is and what could we do and how could we support it. And we all seem to love small businesses and organizations because Matt and Catherine and myself, we all run small businesses. So we said, what if we came up with like sort of a brand makeover contest? That's how it started over beers. Like, what could we do that would be like a brand makeover, help an organization? And that was the launching of Level Up My Brand. It's at levelupmybrand.ca if anybody wants to go look at it. And that was the 2018 version. It was a little bit smaller that first time, but we had great applications. And the idea was If you're a small organization in New Westminster, a nonprofit, a for-profit, if you're old, if you're new, we really wanted to be really inclusive. So we didn't have a lot of, I think all we said was it didn't make sense to ask Crown Corporate and like government organizations to apply, but basically anyone else would be eligible. And I think on that first contest, we had 34 applications, so 34 organizations. And our prize package was things like advertising from the New West Record and vinyl car wrap from Canawrap down on Marine Drive, some swag from my company, design services from Matt, et cetera, et cetera. So the total package was about $12,000. And we had 34 applications. They were all really, really good. We ended up identifying a top 3. We had a live event where those people presented, and Stefania from Mindful Mutts was the winner. And she was very well deserving. Great person, a great business owner, really good for our community. She does a lot. And we were just so pleased. And from all reports, from what she shared with me, she got a ton of value out of winning the Level Up My Brand package and the ability to sort of take her business to the next level. And that's exactly what we always envisioned, was what would it be for you as a small organization if you could have better signage, your car wrapped in vinyl, some cool uniforms for your staff, a party for your staff. So we had Steel and Oak give us some beer and Big Star sandwiches at the time, provided some food. So that's really was how it came together. And we are in year 2 now, the 2020 version. And Quinn, who's on our call today, is one of our organizing committee members. Thank you, Quinn, for being part of it. And we can come back to it later, but it's been quite a journey because of COVID, really. We were off to a great start, bigger package, 44 applications this time, so more applicants, and then COVID hit, and it's been quite a challenge to reboot it, but we are. So that's the good news.
Thank you, Rich. Sorry, I was just reading John's chat here, and not to interrupt, but just to go back, if you have a chance to read it, it really talks about being in touch with the refugee and immigrants who are newcomers and have created businesses and sometimes don't have the social networks, and reaching out to them to really bring them into the fold. And that was something that I think that's so important, and really such a personal failing for myself. So I really look forward to doing that more, because I think that can make just a massive difference for our community overall. So John, thank you for your comment. That being said, how about over to, let's see, Liz and Quinn, because they're ganging up on Jeremy because there's 2 of them. So talk about the Support Local Facebook page. Just what was your impetus in starting it?
So we kind of spun through when COVID started, actually, and I was finding a really hard time figuring out which businesses were doing what. So how they were managing, if they had closed down for the part-time, or if they were doing curbside pickups, online, increasing their online capacity. And I was really trying to figure out how we as a family could support the businesses around us during this unprecedented time. And as a person of my generation, we look to social media and we figure out how we can get the word out there and try to figure out what people were doing in our community and how we could help that happen. So we started the Support Local and just trying to get an idea as to what people were doing and how people could reach out to them and getting it out to the greater New West people.
I think, everybody knows the Eat New West page had a lot on what the restaurants were doing, but there wasn't really much of an avenue for other shops, home-based businesses and retail shops, as well as local nonprofit organizations, and how they were going to get through this. Because of course, as we know, most of them have events as fundraisers, and without events, what were they going to do? So reached out to a few people, the chamber and the BIAs, to see if that would be something useful to people, and they thought it would. So Liz and I kind of put it together, and course, the newest community rallies behind supporting local, and it's been great, really. I mean, we don't have to do much at all to it, and people post things they see and deals, and hopefully businesses can go on there and use it. And it was really supposed to be for this kind of COVID period, and I don't really know what happens to it from then, but if it stays useful to people, then
Yeah, I think that's great, and I loved what you said about you kind of started it, and then it kind of took on a life of its own. Jeremy, you might be able to tap into that as well. I know that you talked about the Helping Hands website or the Facebook page and how that. Now, I know that you're just one of the moderators, so please feel free to acknowledge this isn't obviously meant to be an exhaustive list of every supportive action that's happened in the community. There's many. But this is just to give a few case studies so that we can kind of explore what that takes. So Jeremy, why don't you talk about Helping Hands and how that got started and how it evolved?
Yeah, so Helping Hands New West, it was started by a couple people, and they put a call out just asking for other people to help with moderating the page and also to be neighborhood team leaders. And it was really came out of the realization that as things locked down, there would definitely be people who would require some assistance if they were fully self-isolated, being able to get groceries to them if they didn't have a network around them here, or if they had mobility issues and their regular channels of being able to get the assistance that they need might have run into issues because of COVID. So it was really designed to help match people in the community who had a need with people in the community who could meet that need. And it grew so fast. It was really unbelievable just how quickly it grew. And we also distributed flyers so that people who didn't have access to the Facebook page would still have a phone number to call if they needed help. So as I'm the downtown volunteer coordinator with it, so at the start, I was definitely getting quite a few phone calls, and it was typically people who didn't have the internet or didn't have access to the Facebook page. And it was really heartwarming to see that the number of offers for help so far exceeded the amount of help that was needed, to the point that it was almost challenging to know how to address people as they're reaching out to help, because it's like, we don't actually have anything for you to help with. So it was really great to just see the community rally behind a perceived need in the community. So it was great.
Thanks, Jeremy, for speaking to that. I thought it was such a great initiative, and I think one of the things that is going to be really important in the coming months is as we return to normalcy, the majority of us will kind of probably get back to where close to where we are. Maybe a bit more struggle, but there's going to be a segment of the population, and I think a fairly large segment, that is really going to have an ongoing impact. And it will be really easy for us 2 months or 3 months or 4 months from now to say, oh, well, I guess that the crisis is over, we kind of have it under control, and forget that there's actually still people who may be having a really rough time. And so I think that that's something that we want to look at with these initiatives, is to really keep people engaged and making sure that if that balance switches from more people needing help to people offering help, that we kind of give those initiatives a boost so they can get back to that the balance of more offers than need, because that I think is a really great balance to have. Now, what I think you've talked a bit about what it took to make it happen. So it's amazing how it all started with an idea, and then this idea about reaching out to people. Can you talk a bit about that process of, I guess for Liz and Quiz's perspective, they kind of looked at each other across the dinner table and say, yeah, let's do this. But really, from there, it's about the promotion and reaching out. So can you talk a bit about how you made it happen and how you made it grow Jeremy talked a bit about flyers, but is there anything else you guys can touch base on? I'll leave it open to you guys to jump in if you're inspired.
Yeah, I can share a bit about the road, the journey. It had to be shared, so that was really important that we had like a committee of people, because even though for Level Up My Brand, it was Catherine, Matt, and I sitting around having beers, but then we said, well, we can't do this by ourselves. So we went out and canvassed the community and found a few sort of friends and allies that would help us, and that was really, really important. But it took just gumption. You got to get on the phone and call, and when you're looking, as anyone knows and I'm sure everyone on this call has done prizes for various kids events and fundraisers, you got to phone and beg, borrow, steal, and that's what we did. And that's the kind of thing it takes. And then the listening after our first iteration, the first one in 2018, we sort of canvassed again the community, the sponsors, and said what worked about this first one, what didn't work, and we heard some honest feedback about some shortcomings, and we attempted to address that in the second version, expand our committee so there's more representation, more people, more backgrounds, and then boost the value to all the participants. That was one thing we heard, is like, you got to do more for the participants, both the applicants and the sponsors. So a lot of listening.
That's great. Is there something so you talked about just getting on the phone and talking to people. Was that you say the kind of the biggest driver to bringing people on board, or was there something else that was more automatic or easier, or would you kind of highlight it to just that, really reaching out to the people you know?
For me,
yeah,
Arnold, yeah, I mean, I've been in sales for 30 years, so honestly, it's not that challenging in a way, but so that's what it was, really, was just going out there like a salesperson and drumming up interest. And then once you have a good offer, like the applicants, that was easy because people were motivated for sure.
Very cool. Jeremy, you want to talk a bit about and Jeremy, as on the board for Pride, if you want to mix that in, because I think that's also a really important community initiative, and you can talk about and really successful in New West. So if you want to touch on that as well, I think that would be really really great if you want to talk about how that came about and how it's grown and how it continues to evolve. So feel free to touch on either of those.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we talk about Pride and its growth and what it went through, it was really through community partnerships and trying to reach out to all the other organizations and businesses in the community and finding how we could support each other. And I think that that's really so important, because what everybody brings to the table is enhanced when we're working together to do that. And I think that's very similar to what like Rich was doing with Level Up Your Brand, where it's by having everybody kind of come together, the offering's greater. And Pride was able to really grow significantly through just the community awareness with like the window display contest, the expanding to a full week and having events being put on by so many different members of the community instead of just the Pride Society. So it's really the collaboration and the working together that I think was pivotal in that growth. As far as the helping hands, I mean, I think there was such a feeling of everybody just wanting to do as much as they could as quickly as possible that it just was a beast of its own and exploded very quickly with very little effort.
I love that, and I think that's a testament to the community as a whole in terms of just that desire to help. Liz and Quinn, what really worked in terms of like, what did you do in terms of reaching out? So you had this idea. Talk a bit about that. I command.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to what Jeremy said. I mean, the idea was, I mean, we were doing our own, you're taking out food and you're ordering from the breweries and whatever, and that, there's got to be something more we can do with these to help businesses. So really the idea was to spread it out to that network, and of course social media amplifies everything. But to Rich's point about Level Up Your Brand, I think when I first joined the committee, it was a bunch of different people. I mean, I knew who they were, but we hadn't been closely connected, and with different networks of, so, you know, we've got this task and that task, and, you know, you raise your hand for something you could help. Whereas if it was one person trying to accomplish all that, it would take forever. But, you know, when you bring that network in of different groups or different backgrounds or whatever it is, then you can all kind of work together on that. And I think the support local idea was that. I mean, it was, you know, send this out to all the business owners, you know, and tell them to put their offerings or their, you know, current practices on here, and tell us the stories of when you go to businesses and what they look like and all that sort of stuff. And just, you know, that just kind of spreads out from there. Social media knows how to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's really true. My question is, you know, sometimes you try and do something and you put it out there and then you get like crickets back, you know, like no response to emails, no response to your social media posts. What is on your wish list? Is if you could, you know, and I think that you guys all talk about your success stories, and I think that that's true too, but there's also those moments. What is what would you have wished, or if there was going to be more support, what would that look like? I think that was a very convoluted question. So if you need me to rephrase it, let me know.
No, I get it, Arnold. I totally get it. And I've been there myself many times with the crickets. So you got to take the ups and the downs. And we definitely had that in the first time. The 2018 contest was, like I said, there was a ton of interest from the applicants, but the community interest was honestly a little bit meh. And we really had to think inside of ourselves as an organization, like, what could we do? And that's where this popular voting we did in the second iteration, the 2020 version, that's where the popular voting came from. Is that we should need the community to get engaged, and we need these applicants to get engaged with their community and tribes and get their support. And that's really what the voting is. It's those applicants saying to their networks, come and upvote me. And that led to, I think, I can't even remember what it was, just hundreds of thousands. I think it was 100,000 votes or something like that. So it's an important thing, but it still came out of the crickets. So I totally get that.
Mm. I think that
point there of, you know, going into other people's networks and expanding it is really what drives stuff. And you know, when you're a lot of the crickets, you know, if you're reaching out for sponsors or whatever, you know, for charity events that we put on and stuff like that, I've been through all of that too. And of course, through business, that happens a fair bit as well. But just like in business, if you can get a referral from one of your own clients or friends or whatever it is, the chances of getting that business increases so much. If you know somebody who knows that business sponsorship from or whatever it is, and you can have them reach out, you know, your chances are so much better. So, I mean, that trying to connect everybody, which I know is the goal in New West, to have, you know, access to whatever they're looking for would be the ideal world to take advantage of that for everybody. Really.
I just want to,
getting there is the tough part.
If I could say one quick thing, just a kudos, you know, to what Liz and Quinn have done, and also what Jeremy does, because I watch what they do in the community, is that they have really highlighted a lot of businesses that are not client facing, not business to consumer, because it's so easy in a time like this to just look and say, okay, well, like Quinn said, it was a perfect summary. He said it was just restaurants and beer, like that you could just think in terms of that. But there's so many other businesses, wholesale businesses, B2B businesses, things. It's a bigger community here than we think. And if you just think in terms of your local craft brewery and a couple of Piva and all that, you know, which I like all these places, but they are going to do fine. Honestly, they will be fine because they are big and they've got great brands. But there's a ton of other small businesses that really need our support right now. And that's what I think Jeremy and Liz and Quinn have done a great job with.
Thanks. I think that's great. I mean, one of the things that I'm hearing is that often we'll get that request, you know, share my page, like my page, you'll see a post, and there'll be a moment where you get to make the decision, do I share this or don't I? And, you know, one of the things when I look at what a supportive community looks like, it's more of that sharing. And there's the easy ones, and then there's the more difficult ones. And I think that's it's always an interesting exploration, but I see that is an evolution, is when someone reaches out to you, take that moment to say, this could make a powerful difference. When you make a difference for one person, you also make a difference for their family and their friends and the community that they support. So it really is a ripple effect. And that it's just really interesting. I think that when you look at making events happen, that makes a massive difference. And some of the big ones are easy, but some of the smaller requests are harder. If it's your financial planner or your insurance broker, or your neighbor who has a knitting club, whatever it is. I mean, all these things bring us together, and I think that is a real important action. I think each of you have highlighted. Without that, nothing really transforms. So I think to me, that's one barrier, is this reluctance. Go ahead, Jeremy. Thanks.
I was just going to kind of elaborate a little bit on what Quinn was saying there. And I think there's a real opportunity that we have right now where a lot of our businesses are operating at a slower capacity or a slightly smaller capacity, I think, just because of the nature of living in a pandemic. And I think that there's a real opportunity now to giving those, what's the word? Not referrals, like making sure that you're giving the feedback, like the 5-star reviews, or like the like making sure that we're actually supporting each other's initiatives and businesses, and taking that time to really build up the story that future customers will be able to look back and see the experience that people within our community have had with each other, so that as people start coming from further away and start looking at doing business in New West, that there's that strong story to tell of like people who have done really good business, and the experience that we've had with each other. So I think that so when somebody's sharing an initiative or talking about something, to take that moment to provide a review of what your experience has been, because I think people kind of don't give that as much value as it really deserves, because we all know that we go and read those reviews when we're looking at services or goods that we're considering. So leaving them is just so valuable. And that's like a really great way to support each other, regardless of what you have available to you at the time.
I think it's such a great point, Jeremy. And, I think that there's a lot of activities that we can do as a community. There's a bit of a dark side to the support local. It is, wonderful for internally in New Westminster, but every community is doing support local. And so if you had relied on customers from across the Lower Mainland, or then you might be having a significant impact on your business. And so there is this highlighted need to both kind of reach out to other communities, but also really support those businesses that aren't obvious, that aren't right there. And I think that that's something that is going to be really interesting to see how that evolves. For me, this crazy idea of New Westminster being the most supportive and connected business community in the world is not one that is just a fluff remark. I believe it can actually happen. So I have this question for each of you. What would be possible for you and for New West, in your opinion, if we were the most supportive and connected business community in the world? It's just...
I think one piece that would open a lot of possibilities would be a lot of knowledge sharing, a lot of instead of seeing competitors as competition, seeing them as members of the community, because if the sea's rising and we're all on that boat together, we all rise and do better. So I think New West is actually pretty good about treating competitors as collaborators, but I see the ability to knowledge share and share in success to really be probably one of the biggest benefits of being in the most connected, collaborative business community in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy, you stole the motto of "Level Up My Brand," and you didn't even know it. But that was, I forgot to mention, that was our motto, was a rising tide floats all boats, right? And we believe that wholeheartedly. And I think one of the greatest outcomes of the most supportive business community would be that we wouldn't see people falling through the cracks like we have seen in the last 6, 8, 10 weeks. It's been heartbreaking to read stories of people that are such a small, they're in a small business situation where they don't qualify for many or most of the supports, and that really is heartbreaking. Yeah.
When I started talking about this in 2005, I was challenged to say, well, what, it's easy to say that, but what would that actually look like? And I have this, I'm just going to share my screen here for a sec, hopefully. Just give me a moment. Here's the one I want. And it was, look, what are the actions? What does it actually look like? I think that from a business community standpoint, oftentimes we think if supportive is like, well, I give you money or I give you referrals. And that's actually a massive leap. And so I wanted to make a list of, well, what are some actions that are some sort of scaled version of trust? At the beginning, you don't know each other. I can't quite, refer Quinn the first time I meet him as a financial planner because my cousin or my aunt or my neighbor is also a financial planner. But as I get to know him and see what he does, that builds up. So there's a scale of trust. But that doesn't mean I can't introduce him or at least know what he does. And so I just want to go through this list here quickly, because I think one of the things that Jeremy talked about was on there, and that's reviewing each other's business. So the first step is, and I think this also overcomes discrimination or that, accidental discrimination, is really knowing each other by name. So making sure that if you don't know somebody at an event, that you make that introduction and introduce yourself. If you're one of those people who has that capacity, then I think that makes a big difference. Then turn around and make those introductions to other business owners. And in this way, I think we get to know each other. I think if we follow each other on social media, there's then creates all kinds of opportunities for that moment of, hey, would you share this? If every business owner is connected on LinkedIn, or if and I think that Jeremy touched on this as well, there is a moment where we decide to promote the community just because we're part of this community. We're a member of this community. So we say as a community, hey, this is who we are. And that kind of energy draws people forward. And so I think that's really the first barrier that we need to overcome, is to have that idea. And that's not to say that we're not already supportive. I don't want to, make it seem like New West isn't already a supportive community, but I just have these higher aspirations. Have a hashtag that we can use to share so that we can monitor and help each other. Having fun together, I think, is a great way to build relationships. Don't need a lot of fun to do that, or a lot of trust to do that. And it was one of the values that I fought for when I was on the board of the chamber, was that we have fun. Business owners say why we can buy from one another's business. And that really goes to the next step. So if I get to know Quinn or Jeremy, I understand what their offering is. And so I can explain why, oh, you got to talk to Jeremy. He's got this New Roots. It's really about helping people have a better experience in New West, and give that reason of why they want to have that conversation. Know each other's elevator pitch. And then we go to the next level, which is collaboration, where you begin to share each other's posts. And I think providing honest feedback. Rich talked about that with his program, Level Up My Brand, where he got the feedback so that he could make it better. And I think that honesty is a gift, and it's sometimes rare to come by. And you can value people who really tell it like it is, but it's not easy to be criticized. And so but when we get that honest feedback of, this is why it's not working for me, or this is why I couldn't refer you, it really gives people an opportunity to grow. So that's another, I think, an element that can really help our community be more supportive. Talk about sharing knowledge and sharing best practices. If there's ways we can save money together, hey, I got this great deal on swag from Rich Patterson. It's all about, Dr. Bonnie Henry t-shirts and masks. Then, that's one thing. Where can you get the good deals? Leverage our email distribution to promote each other's businesses. There's this great idea about creating little distribution groups, whether it be 1, 2, 5, whether either your competitors or non-competitors. Getting together with those groups, it really can expand that. And I think there's a real opportunity for businesses, the arts, and the not-for-profit community to really work together in that way. Each of them have their own communities, and having some reciprocal support in that area can make, I think, a massive difference. And then I think you've got that next level, which really transforms a person's business, and where you start to attend events, you buy tickets, you collaborate together on promotional initiatives in the newspaper or paid initiatives, collaborate on events, you buy from each other, you refer business to each other, and then maybe even invest in each other's business. And I think that there's, levels from, I just met this person, I can learn their name and introduce them, to, it's going to take a whole nother level of trust for me to invest in Jeremy's business. But ultimately what I see is that these are the measurements of how we'll know if we have created a supportive community. And I wanted to share that list with you all. Hopefully that maybe inspires you. This to me is the list, or at least the starting list that I'm using to see how I'm measuring against that success. How New Westminster, is it the most supportive business community in the world? And I think a large part for me is, what's not on that list is that there's a diversity of individuals who know each other, that there's a reach across maybe a divide. And I think that's something that is we have a real opportunity to, and another way we know that we're a connected and supportive community, that diversity is represented. So that being said, what's missing from that list of actions of what does it look like to be a supportive community? Or is there a barrier to being supportive that we haven't talked about, that we might need to overcome? So I'm just going to put this on gallery view here. What do you think? Any thoughts? Sorry, I know I took up a bunch of time there, but hopefully that, what did you guys think about the list? Was there anything on there that you thought was good, bad, and different?
I was just going to I guess mention, and along those lines, is New West can seem very supportive, and it is for the most sense. But I think the group that is supportive is probably too narrow. In that it's, if it's that same group of whatever it is, 100 people or 500 people or whatever, we're missing a massive section of the city. And that's to not only their detriment, but to our detriment, because we don't get access to that network and how they can help all of us, how we can help them. So that's probably the tough question. And it probably goes back to the original topic, a discussion point of the whole situation. But how do we invite those that aren't attending these things in a way where they will feel welcome to join and participate and rise the entire boat with us, if you will.
I love that word, and I think that's something that came up this morning when we were talking about Tourism New West strategic plan, is the idea of invitations. And I think that's really what a simple action that could have a profound effect, where this group of people that says, hey, yeah, we're doing this, then you reach outside that group and say, and you make that invitation. And when you think about economic activity in New Westminster, I think the reason why people will travel between communities is because they get an invitation from someone they trust. If I were to say I'm going to the neighborhood pub for a beer, and I invite my friend who's part of my social bubble from Burnaby or Vancouver, say, why don't you come here and we'll go there? He's going to trust me that I've researched that I've already endowed that trust in him, whereas he wouldn't necessarily choose that just that simple act could have the potential to really make a profound difference for all of our businesses. That idea of inviting our trusted friends to this community to generate some economic activity. So I just want to put that out there of invitations, but I think that is exactly that. I think there's that is how we're going to make a difference, is that invitation. That's how we grow. And it starts right here with these 18 participants. No, there's way more, but ultimately, you know, that's the starting place.
And I just riff on that same idea that I think we need to challenge ourselves to start looking for who's that next generation of community leaders coming up, and start, like Arnold said and Quinn said, inviting them in. And these would be millennials and people of color and marginalized people and LGBTQ too. And I think that's really important. Where are these next leaders coming? They're already here, I know. We just need to make those invitations.
Absolutely. It's the end of our time. That was I just really appreciate everyone being here and listening. Hopefully, can I just get a thumbs up if you enjoyed your time and thought that was valuable? Just give me a little yeah, thumbs up reaction. Okay, good times. You can use the reactions in Zoom. Look at that. Here we go. Lots of thumbs up. And you know, I feel like as a chamber, we have a limited amount of resources and capacity, and there's so much that I want to do, and so much I'd like to accomplish. And I run up every day with the not accomplishing everything I see to accomplish. And I really see that there's the opportunity to make that invitation to this community, and that's where how it's going to happen is through invitation. So. I just really appreciate everyone's participation. I think that there were some really great ideas that came from this this event, and hopefully it will get viewed, and this idea will spread. And we are gonna, you know, keep taking action to support each other, because this is just beginning. You know, like when you think about how this is going to go in the next couple of years, I mean, this is a crazy world. And that we're in right now. So hopefully together we can get through this and come out on the other side stronger. Anybody have any last positive, what's making you optimistic? Okay, this is just a 15-second clip from, we'll go Liz, Jeremy, and Rich. What's making you optimistic right now? Go ahead, Liz, or Quinn, Liz and Quinn.
Well, just things opening up a little bit more and more, and having more accessibility to the different businesses. I think that's really optimistic. I mean, the schools are partially open, and we're on our way to.
We got one kid back in school. That's helped the dynamic a bit.
One out of one. Is it 3 or 4?
Just three. Just 3.
1 out of 3 ain't bad. How about you, Rich? What's making you optimistic?
Ditto. One kid went back yesterday and she was absolutely thrilled, even though she pretended she didn't want to go and everything. But by the time she was going out the door in the morning, thrilled. And I'm so excited to say that Level Up My Brand is back on. We got like 99% of our original sort of content, and participants are back. Sponsors are all back. So we're just blessed. So watch, please, in the next 3 to 4 weeks for some major announcements there. We'll do our final judging, and we'll make our 3, we'll go from 10 semifinalists to 3 and the grand prize winner. Thanks,
awesome,
everyone.
Rich. Great news. Okay, Jeremy, last word. What's making you optimistic?
I'm really excited about the fact that I think people have more acutely defined their needs and what their desires are and how they want to move forward here, which offers so many opportunities for the business community to step in and be innovative and find new solutions to these needs that have emerged. I think it's a really exciting time to start new initiatives, because when we're at a time of leanness, it forces you to build your margins and stuff such that you can then grow out of that and see prosperity on the other end. So I'm really optimistic because I'm building a new thing right now, and I think it's the best time ever to build something new. So
very cool. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time. We look forward to having you next week. Next week on our on the call at this time, we'll be talking about digital marketing strategies, specifically sales funnels, how to create a successful online sales funnel. The week after that, we have our AGM on June 16th. All of our political representatives will be there. Mayor Jonathan Cote, Peter Julian, Minister Darcy will all come and say a few words. The day after that, we have the BC Chamber's CEO, Val Litwin, and he sits on the mayor's or the provincial task force with the premier on economic growth. So he's really tapped into what's out there and what's coming. So I'm looking forward to that conversation to really figure out, make sure that we understand as a community, how do we get through this. So thanks again, and look forward to seeing everybody next time. Bye now.